Right. But it's basic, like, thing, like the third line, I don't know. I don't want that.
Okay, we are ready. Whenever everyone else is, are you ready, Jesus?
I think you still have your virtual background on. Which means we can't see the full round.
Okay,
So give it a few seconds.
we go. The virtual background's on.
Okay, welcome to the June 12th, 2024 full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 6. My name is Sandy McKee and I'm the chair of CB6. This meeting is called to order at 7:01.
The mic is not on.
It's not? Is that better? No.
Don't hold it.
Just, it's flashing.
Okay, let's once.
Is this any better?
Yeah.
Someone please close the door.
Thank you. All right, this meeting is called to order at 7:01 p.m. We have a lot to discuss this meeting, so I ask everyone to be mindful of the time. Tonight, we are joined by Secretary Lydia Shrednick, District Manager Jesus Perez, Assistant District Manager Brendan Burke, and Community Coordinator Brian Lafferty, and our Vice Chair John. As a reminder, New York law requires all community board members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. We observe the following ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Raise your hand and wait for me to recognize you. It is important that only one person speaks at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said. The chat function should not be used for CB6 business. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties or to state in writing information you would like us to keep that has already been stated. Members of the public, if you wish to give remarks during the public session and have not already registered by filling out a form, you can register to speak in the public session on Zoom by using the Q&A feature and posting your name, affiliation, the topic you wish to speak about. If you are here in person to speak in the public session, you need to fill out a speaker form, which is near the sign-ins and the CB6 newsletter. This needs to be done by 7:15. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time, posted online, and appears on the screen before you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Agenda? Yeah.
Yes.
If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Board members, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Lydia will take it.
Majed Abdul Saman. Majed Abdul Saman.
I believe he's attended later.
Okay.
Virtually.
Tanya Arias.
Here.
Kyle Thane. Neil Barkley.
Present.
Martin Barrett. Elvie Barroso.
Can't be with us tonight.
Jim Collins.
Also can't be with us.
Jonathan Dorico.
Present.
Stuart Deser. Beatrice Disman.
Present.
Maya Donahue. Robert Fairfan. Barack Friedman.
Present.
Jason Bromowitz.
Present.
Eric Goldberg. Justin Goldberg.
Present.
Gloria Hayes.
Present.
Rabia Iqbal. Paige Judge.
Present.
Rupal Gagan.
Present.
John Keller.
Present.
Nadeem Kalani. Katie Londa.
Present.
Sandra Leftoff. David Levy.
Can't be with us.
David Lowenstein. Anton Malner.
Present.
Sandra McKee.
Present.
Alec Militic,
Present.
Richard Mintz,
Present.
Kevin O'Keefe,
Present.
Stephen O,
Present.
Reshma Patel,
Can't be with us.
Stephen Perez,
Present.
Miriam Ralph, Michael Anro, Roberto Ruiz Melendez, Lawrence Shayer,
Present.
Anne Seligman, Sandra Sharon, Livia Shernick, present, Mubin Siddiqui, Letty Simon,
Present.
Susan Steinberg, Mark Thompson,
Present.
Gabriel Churzo, James Vera, Jerry Weinstein,
He'll be here
Sarah
later.
Whittington, Peter Setti,
Present.
Thank you. We do have quorum.
Thank you. Our elected officials have sent their reports ahead of time, and they are compiled on the CB6 website. The link to the reports was sent out ahead of time, and for your convenience can be found in the chat on Zoom or by going to our website's page for the full board meetings. I will call on the elected officials now who have RSVP'd to take questions from CB6 members and the public about their reports. If there are no questions, we will move on to the next elected official. An elected official has a time-sensitive matter to report on that didn't make it into their pre-submitted report, they will have 3 minutes to do so. During this part of the meeting, we will also hear from government agency representatives who have requested to address the board tonight. Senator Gonzalez, would you like to go first and share here first?
Thank you for coming. Thank you guys for having me. Good evening. How are you all doing? Oh. Share of technology and. It's really lovely being here tonight. Good evening. It feels good to be back in district. As you all know, we had the end of our legislative session last week. We had a very busy legislative session, ended with a bang, which I think will be a topic of conversation tonight with congestion pricing. We were equally as shocked to see the governor unilaterally do what she did, but I've been talking to so many constituents in the CRZ right here in Manhattan, and I think this is an opportunity for us to really engage in a conversation about what it looks like to make sure that we're not disproportionately affected by anything moving forward. And so this gives us another chance to organize together, already having those conversations, but if you have comment, we've received hundreds of messages in the last week, so the district has not been shy so far in voicing opinions, but we're happy to collect them. So please, if you haven't reached out, this is an invitation to reach out to our office as we compile all of that feedback. And I know we're keeping it short tonight, so I'm gonna go through this quickly. We did have some end of session wins that we wanted to communicate out. Most notably, we passed 2 bills around hospital closures. And so of course, we're keeping on the fight for Mount Sinai. That Israel, I think since last time we spoke, we saw that Mount Sinai had resubmitted the application for closure. And we're still committed to fighting that, but 2 of the things we did in Albany before we left was 1, pass the Litch Act, which I was a co-prime sponsor of, that requires community engagement in hospital closure so that we're never left out of the room again. And that was a huge win for communities everywhere, and also sends a clear message that we're going to continue as a community pushing. The second bill that we passed was around the Department of Health. And it was a bill that I personally also introduced that says that we need to have a clear impact study on an individual closure and the impact it has on nearby hospitals. Because in this process, we've been talking to Bellevue, talking to other healthcare institutions about whether or not they actually have the capacity to absorb patients. And the Department of Health should be the one that's leading that, having that conversation. So we're excited to pass legislation that sets that standard. In addition, we repassed our bill on helicopters and seaplanes. It's very great to announce that while we're in waterside, because of course, it's been an ongoing issue. So proud to have repassed that to the Senate. And then we also passed some legislation around artificial intelligence, something I've been talking about for a long time here. But in addition to passing the FAIR Act in the budget, which is the nation's strongest bill on deepfakes and elections, in a year where we have a presidential election and the alt-right is moving very quickly with misinformation, We also passed the Loading Act, which is government use of artificial intelligence. So there are clear standards. And the biggest thing here, and this is what I'm really excited about, is it's the first bill in the country that has clear labor protections, so that government workers can be automated in the same way. And the AFL-CIO is partnering in this, but it sets, again, another standard for the rest of the country. So really proud to be doing this work. I'm gonna keep it, I guess, a few other quick notes for the district, and then happy to take any questions. We did do our capital and operational funding, awarded over $450,000 to the district. Very excited on operational side recently, but since taking office, we've invested between our budget and the investments we got in the state budget for this district over $9 million. So really making sure that we're bringing back, specifically for Senate District 59. And then part of our funding was for the renaming of the 23rd Street Station for Baruch, with myself and Assembly Member Epstein champion. So I'm gonna stop there and then happy to take questions.
Stu is first.
Hi, the Loading Act, which limits the use of computer, decision-making, by government agencies, both directly and indirectly. Now, we all know the issues with, hallucinating, and with, algorithmic black boxes. This stuff's not ready to go on stage. But it seems, but human beings are pretty crummy at making decisions too. I mean, they lie, they misconstrue history, they misinterpret facts. They come with biases, and result in discrimination. There's lots of problems with human decision making too. Why do you, ban indirect use where the computer might produce some answers and some information that a human being can then be responsible for reviewing?
That's a great question. So we know that humans are biased, and we actually have now, because of that, in the data sets that train a lot of our automated decision-making systems, that they're biased too. They mirror our human bias. The difference though, and I think the responsibility of government is if an automated decision-making system, which will have inherent bias as well, is making a decision about your life, that you are entitled to appealing that decision. And of course, humans aren't, perfect either, but having meaningful human oversight and having an escalation process when it comes to your social benefits, especially, I think is important. And then in addition, we've had other states that have used automated decision-making systems already to, for example, decide who gets food stamps. And it will essentially be too rigid in some of its criteria. And then in one of the other states, literally 50,000 people were rejected and then didn't have any entitlement to have that overturned. So the decision was permanent without the legislature intervening. So I think that's what we're trying to address. I will also say though, that this bill does more than add human oversight. It also includes impact assessments so that we understand where the automated bias is today, and that the state government also has a responsibility to address that bias that exists in current systems. So we not only want to prepare for generative AI, you mentioned imperfect systems, well, there are current automated systems that aren't based on the new type of AI, they're kind of like that existing type of AI that we've been using every day. That's actually easier to fix. Because you can look at the code, an engineer can go in and improve that system in a way that we can't do that with generative AI because it's a black box. So with those existing systems, we still have a responsibility to do those fixes, and this bill actually requires it. So I'm very excited to have that standard too for existing systems.
I just want to be clear on the indirect use of these systems so that the system generates a response. It may show the basis of its logic. It may express the logic. The human being still has control. It's not like the computer is taking control away. It's just contributing some information in the background that the human being may have missed, or that the human has to justify if denied.
Yeah, how do I talk about it?
Yeah, so maybe you should take this out in your committee.
But,
Sounds like a
But
good,
we are not trying to overregulate, so there are those uses that are permitted, that are in the background.
maybe he'll follow up with you.
I talk about this all day, I'm so excited, so, but one is my fault.
Michael Ann had a question.
Yeah.
You need the microphone, Michael Ann, sorry.
Hi, Michael, I'm happy to serve on this board. And just a quick question, do you have a timeline about the hospital? Like, what can we expect when community asks, what's next since they reapplied to close?
That's a great question. And Susan, is that a follow-up to that
Yes,
question?
I
or-
actually was at a court hearing.
Oh, Susan, wait for the
I was
microphone.
at a court hearing and the judge said that although Mount Sinai Beth Israel wanted to close on July the 12th, they're absolutely not gonna do that. And he set another court date in August, so this keeps, the timeline keeps slipping.
Yeah, so that's a great point, great question and great update. So yes, we're still fighting this through the courts. And I think that gives us a really, cease and desist, right? Like it gives us a really good basis to keep on fighting. And because they've resubmitted, it is possible for the Department of Health at any point to accept the application for closure. And I've personally spoken with the governor's office. We're also meeting with the Department of Health again to get some questions about what the rejection had initially meant. And then also meeting with, of course, the nearby hospitals. So we're still, I think the biggest thing right now is still pressuring the executive and pressuring the Department of Health. And as a coalition of electeds, we've been doing that because, we were happy that we won on the return of the application, but now that they've come back with more, the last thing we want is the Department of Health to say, well, they satisfied the requirements. And so we're gonna go ahead and close. I will also add that part of that fight has still been that the Department of Health has not given us clear data about what continuity of care for this area looks like. So there's no data that's been provided to elected officials that says, if Mount Sinai Beth Israel were to close, if they accepted that application, that we would actually have sufficient emergency services, that we have adequate bedding in Manhattan, that folks who are particularly vulnerable, so folks who are, aging, disabled community and others would have continuity of care as well. And we've been I personally been pushing, all the electeds, we've been working together really hard to push for that data. It's been promised to us, but it's a process. So I wanna call out, that's why we pass these bills, because it's unacceptable to me that decisions are being made without facts. So that's really the baseline of what we're doing. Yeah.
We have two questions. They're gonna be fast ones, right? Eric's, the microphone's back there, so.
Sorry.
Super fast. The legislation that was passed to increase the number of red light cameras, I know up to 600. I know you're smiling, I'm frowning, because it should be so much more. So I guess my question to you is, I think there's a 3-year sunset on this. Are we not gonna reopen this for another 3 years and be stuck with like 3% of our intersections with red light cameras? Because we continue to pass resolution after resolution to have 100%. So that's it. I know you're supportive, but just wanna keep pushing for that.
Great question. A little bit of a roller coaster, because at first I thought you were against it, and I was like, I'm very much for these cameras. I agree, it's not enough. Myself and Senator Bernardis, we are gonna follow up to see if there's more that we can do in next year's budget, for example. There's nothing stopping us from funding more of them, so great question. Key part of our street safety plan. But even getting this was a win, and took a lot of talking to our colleagues to get on board with it. So we'll keep pushing.
Okay, Gabe had a question.
Okay, real quick, almost yes or no. Does the governor even have the statutory authority to make the call she made?
Oh my gosh. I think Senator Krueger is on tonight. She had a really wonderful op-ed. And had been also looking into this question. I don't know. I don't know. And that's part of why this is the way this happened, the process just isn't regardless of where you are in the issue, this is just not what a functional government should look like. So yeah, we were trying to investigate that as well, but I left session, all of us, with that clear answer. I know that was the last question.
Great, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wait, can I do one shout?
Oh, please.
Sorry. I do, just for a minute, I wanna really shout out, Susan here and Anne Greenberg, who may be online, because we went to testify at the Red Guidelines Board last night, and I just wanna say, you know, I testified, he testified, Harvey testified, but Anne and Susan were phenomenal in their testimony and organized so many tenants to fight for us, to make sure we don't get, those increases. So I just wanna say thank you and call that work out too, so, thank you.
Robert Forst is next on our list. Robin Forst. Robin, are you there?
I am here.
Great,
How are
thank you.
I thought Senator Kruger was here. Thank you. A few updates. I know you have a big agenda. I think all of you know that the mayor created a charter revision commission last month, and hearings are being held throughout the city. Sorry?
We can't hear you that well.
Oh,
Yeah,
is
sorry.
that better?
Yeah.
yeah, that's better.
Okay. The charter revision hearings are being held throughout the city. And tomorrow night, as I think you know, there's a session in Manhattan. It's at the New York Law School from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And you can join it in person or in Zoom. I can put the information in the chat, or Jesus, I think, has it already. But you have an opportunity to give input either in person or online. And you can address any issue you think is important to the betterment of the city. The topic tomorrow night, though it's not limited, is fiscal responsibility. So the focus will be on that, but any issue that people have can be raised at the session. I have been in touch with the office about the You're in Luck program, which I think everybody's heard about, which is the creation of 82 new restrooms in the city. And your staff asked where in Board 3 those would, Board 6 those would be. And there are two projects, if you're interested, one at the Murphy Brothers Playground, and the other at Stuyvesant Square East. So that's the update on the You're in Luck program. There is a big effort underway this summer to enhance enforcement of illegal mopeds and scooters. There's additional staff. There's now a requirement that those vehicles be registered, and the police are confiscating illegal vehicles. They're dangerous, as we know, for pedestrians as well as others in the roadway, and they have become a tool for stealing. You know, people zip by and grab items of value. So I'm looking forward to this, and we should all look forward to a safer summer with regard to the scooters. I don't want to take too much time, but if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Do we have any questions? Great, thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have Eric Straza from DA Bragg's office.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully everyone's enjoying their evenings. I have a few announcements I wanted to put on everyone's radar, a few of which I included in the report that I submitted, but I ended up submitting it just before the start of this meeting. So just to make sure everyone's aware, we, in partnership with the NYPD, will be holding a gun buyback on Saturday, June 22nd at the Holy Rood Episcopal Church that's located on 715 West 179th Street, which I know is a bit of a ways away from CB6, but it is a borough-wide event, and it's an opportunity for community members to surrender their firearms anonymously in exchange for a prepaid debit card, and the amount of that debit card will be dependent on the category of firearms surrendered. Our office has flyers with answers to frequently asked questions for anyone who's interested in learning more about the event, and also for anyone who wants to help get the word out. We'd really appreciate it if anyone here wanted to help disseminate the information. Also wanted to mention a few indictments that we recently announced that could be relevant to the CB6 area. One of them is more relevant to borough-wide initiatives and efforts to combat retail theft and shoplifting. We know that that's an issue in the Community Board 6 area specifically as well. We recently announced the indictment that resulted from a long-term investigation that involved collaboration with many different retailers like Macy's, Walgreens, a lot of which are in the CB6 area. Specifically, the indictment was for a group of individuals found with over $1 million in stolen goods, planning to resell them through a secondhand market. We also recently announced the indictment of an individual in the CB6 area for punching two strangers on a sidewalk within a 10-minute span of each other on East 15th Street and 3rd Avenue in early May. They were charged with 1 count of assault in the 2nd degree and 2 counts of assault in the 3rd degree. And for that, the fencing indictment and all of the cases that I've spoken about, we have full press releases on our website with more information. The last one I wanted to mention didn't make it onto the highlights in my report that I submitted, but it was something that I'm sure everyone heard about. There was a recent stabbing in Times Square of a tourist back in May. We announced the indictment of the individual for the unprovoked attack. And once again, there's more information on our website. Happy to take any questions or explain anything further, but I'll hand it back to you all. Thanks so much.
Do we have any questions? Great. All right. Thank you very much. We have our Assembly member, Harvey Epstein, is here. Please come on up, Harvey.
You look scared. My father. I never seen that answer that question. Well, happy summer for everyone. It's June. Kristen and I are done with the legislative session, so yay for us. So, I just want to, I know we heard of the unfortunate passing of a leader in our neighborhood, Louise Zangberg. Really kind of a sad moment. She's been active in our community. I've been living here for almost 30 years, and Louise been active for 55 years. And unfortunately, funeral Monday, Kristen and I were involved in it, so we couldn't make it, but not funny, but our thoughts are with our friends and family, so important. Last night we had our guidelines board hearing. Susan was on fire again, so thank you for being on fire and standing up for all the rent stabilized tenants in New York City and walking out at the appropriate time. Not while I was speaking, I appreciate that as well. It's really important that we protect all the rent stabilized tenants. Senator Gonzalez and I were there last night speaking on behalf of the state legislators and ourselves how important a rent freeze is for the tenants in New York City. And, we see evictions up again, 13,000 evictions. And so it's, we've seen that what that impact that has on families and the way people keep people in their homes to ensure that they can afford to live in their homes. And, more importantly, we've seen it all over the city, not just here in our neighborhood or side now, which is a large volume of stabilized tenants all over the city. So in our report, our session ended. I luckily was able to pass 12, I think, really good bills, and then hopefully the governor will sign most of them. Hopefully, but you can't ever tell that. It's a lot of good things that we're working on. We have a Juneteenth event coming up. I think Senator Gonzalez is a co-sponsor of that amazing event. And it's in our newsletter. It's on June 24th, so people hopefully can join us. Having our first ever movie festival in Tompkins Square Park. We're doing 3 movies in the park. So our first movie is a kid movie on June 26th, El Canto, and we have a whole series. We're giving out free pizza and 2 booths for the first 100 people. We'll have popcorn, and we're doing something else. So place a movie called The Little Fugitive about Coney Island, and then we're gonna have people from Coney Island come and do circus acts and all this stuff, and then we have this movie Slums of Beverly Hills, so Natasha Lyonne's gonna talk about that movie, and then everything everywhere all at once. So it's a once a month movie festival, and so something fun that we should all go to. I love movies in the park, and we don't do it enough, so I think we all need to do some fun things. We talked a lot about housing in the last meeting, and people know what we did on housing, and it's important to do that. Senator Kruger is having an event that I think we're all co-sponsoring about what good cause eviction does and doesn't do on June 20th. And I think it's really critical that people can do that. And then there'll be another event, we have a shredding event coming up, and e-waste event, and those are just in the packet. And the only thing I'll just say, you know, at the end of the legislative session, we were kind of hit by a bit of a bomb by the governor's announcement about around congestion pricing. So it's, you know, honestly, it's been in the news a lot, and I think there's litigation to stop it and there's litigation to start it. And I think the reality is, the way this process happened, just is not good. And so I think whether you like it or don't, I voted for it. And I also believe in residential exemptions, but the process in itself, 2 days before the end of the legislative session, saying, hey, by the way, you know, 2 weeks ago, I was out here saying how great congestion pricing is. Nah, I just disagree with that now, and we should just end it. You know, with an announcement in the New York Times, and not talking to legislators about it, and telling us, hey, why don't you give me $1 billion like that to be able to fix the problem, or, oh, you wanna do that? Why don't you just give us an IOU, say, we're gonna spend $1 billion and not tell you how to spend it. This is just a really, really terrible process problem, whether you agree or disagree with it. I think is, if you didn't like it, and just say 6 months ago, a year ago, let's figure out how to fix it. We have congestion problems, we need to make sure our public transportation system is accessible for people with disabilities. That's what congestion pricing is going to do. We're gonna reduce congestion, improve air quality, and fund the MTA. If those aren't our priorities, maybe they still are, how do you get those solutions if you don't wanna do this plan? And you can't do that when 48 hours left in the legislative session, so that's my uplifting and sometimes depressing report. I don't have to take questions if people have any.
Tanya has her hand up, well, should we go to Rupel first? He's in the back, we'll wait for.
Okay. Just a quick question. I don't know if you have an answer to this one, but one of the proposals that was put forward was increasing the fare hike, which basically affects every single person, including people of, you know, lower socioeconomic people in outer boroughs. What do you think are the chances of that one actually going through? Will MTA be forced to do that because of what the governor did 48 hours before the legislation session ended?
So last year we, you know, there was a big push last year to raise the fare, and then we pushed back in the budget last year, and we agreed to the half the increase she wanted. It was supposed to go from 275 to 3. We went to 290 this year, and we proposed a 2-year increase. So the fares are going to go up next year based on what we passed last year. The idea that it will go up beyond that, it seems regressive at best, if not really bubbling in problematic. So I think I can speak for Senator Gonzalez and like that and say, sorry, we do this a lot. We basically agree 99% of the time, so I can guess that we are gonna fight that and look for other sources of funding. But you know, increasing the small business, the business tax probably isn't a solution either. While I think corporations should pay more money, there's a lot of other ways to do it. We can just increase the corporate tax, and the corporate tax rate could go up with the business tax, which is one of the highest in the country. Is maybe an issue that maybe we should focus on, but corporate tax requires everyone to pay. Like, it doesn't matter, we increase corporate tax, and anytime you get shipped a box from Amazon, they have to pay the corporate tax increase. It doesn't have to be based in New York, but the business tax are solely businesses based in New York City. So I think it's wrong-minded to focus on that instead of focusing on larger corporations who have more ability to pay. You know, and that's what we're trying to do with like extended producer responsibility. You know, we're trying to focus on other bills that require not just people who live in the city, like people on Long Island and Westchester, use public transportation and they should pay, but that proposal includes anybody else except city-based businesses.
Tanya?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm Tanya Arias. Regardless of whether you're in favor or against what happened We all agree that there's a lot of congestion in Manhattan. But, you know, for the 44 years that I have lived here, what I noticed is that there were countless and countless of cars coming into the city every day with just one person in the car. Okay, so there's many ways to peel this banana. If congestion pricing is not cutting it, because there's so many people against and in favor, there have to be some other ways to do this. I mean, we could conceivably put a toll on the Brooklyn Bridge and the 59th Street Bridge. Okay, we could conceivably institute an HOV program where people that come in with 3 people or more in the car would get a discount. But people coming into the city between the hours of 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. who are not essential personnel or part of a commercial, endeavor, or are teachers or whoever, and they're just coming in with just one person in the car, would have to pay an increased toll. You would be given some sort of permit or ID that would identify you as able to bring your car in. Because, whenever I'm coming back from the airport or wherever, and you see it's just hundreds of thousands of cars with just one person in them. So why don't we encourage carpooling?
I think that's a really good point. There's lots of great ideas. I actually think residential parking would discourage people.
Residential parking.
Right, we discourage people from driving in and parking on our streets. If you said you can only park on the city streets for free, not for free because you have to pay a residential fee, if you live in the district. You could do lots of things like that. The HOD, we did that during the pandemic, saying you don't have 3 or more people in your car, you can't drive into Manhattan. There's lots of things, whether you agree with congestion pricing or not, that we can do on top of it to do that. Yeah, I think what we will have to be doing or off session is thinking creatively about what we want to do. Because we don't need to raise $1 billion to pay for the capital improvements for the MTA. We need to do that. We need to make only 1 in 4 stations are accessible for people with disabilities. We need to change that. We can't wait 15 more years to do it. So how do we do those things and raise the capital we need to ensure that people who need to use our subways can and reduce congestion at the same time? I think that, those are the things we in our house were talking about when the governor hit us over the head with this thing last week, and I think requires all of us over the next few months to come together. And my expectation is that we will be back in Albany to vote on something before January, but I think it requires a lot of hard work before we get there.
I think, are there any more questions? I'm sorry, Brock, and then we have a very long agenda. So,
Thank you. So, we already spent about $1 billion on congestion pricing, and now we say, oh, don't worry about that. Our money just lit on fire. Don't worry about that. We'll come up with a new plan. Just give us another $1 billion and we'll implement that. Why should we trust the government now to do anything? Do anything with our money? You just, not you personally. Why should we do anything?
Or Senator Gonzalez.
That's a really good question, Mike. We just literally spent $500 million on the infrastructure and it's so like, it makes 0 sense. If you didn't like it, don't spend the money. Like, come just a year ago and say, you know what? Don't love the plan. We need to come back and think about it. But to do it in the way that it happened seems really irresponsible to me. So I can't answer that question because I think government screws up a lot. But I will say the government does things really well some of the time. And this is this balance of like screwing up really badly like we did last week, we the collectively, because I don't think Senator Gonzalez and I did screw up. But like, how do we ensure that when we have the next big idea, we're not gonna pull the plugs 48 hours before again, because then we're gonna do the same thing. So I think it's a really good question about how does the public trust government to do the right thing? And unfortunately, this shows a bad example of us trying to do it well, because there's a lot of ways to do it well. Even if you disagree that, if you think it shouldn't happen, then just say it. Don't put the money in, don't do the infrastructure, don't do thousands of community meetings, wasting, hundreds of millions of dollars of staff time to review all those evaluations, to have everyone, thousands of people to testify and submit all those hundreds of hours that people spent on that. just to come and say it's gonna end. It's just totally irresponsible.
We do have Letty ask for the floor. Letty? Go ahead.
No,
Did you have a question, Letty?
no, not at all. I'm just gonna
Oh,
say
sorry. We saw your hand raised. Okay, Gloria, do you have something?
Really fast.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. So you mentioned a resident exemption, because I went through all the exemptions. Why did that not make it into the plan?
The honest answer, because Cuomo bullied us in in 2019, when we wanted a full residential exemption like London has. He was adamantly opposed to a residential exemption, and we were able to get an exemption for people who make less than $60,000, and we thought 60,000 for a family of one is very different for a family of five, and
Right.
that was a ridiculous decision, a flat fee that'll never increase instead of tying into like an area median income. And in those fights, in those budget conversations, Cuomo beat us up, and we voted for something that was less than ideal. Also, the disability system for people who trying to get the exemption from disabilities has been horrific. Our office has been dealing with lots of people who had applied for those permits. So it's just, in all these negotiations, that was something that we lost, and I continue to fight for it, but it was, it's an uphill battle.
Can we go back and get those now that we're gonna redo this?
I don't know what we can get and we can't get, and I don't know, the law from 2019 is still a law, so I don't know how an executive can change the law without the vote of the legislature. So we'll see where this plays out over the next year, but I will continue to say, and I still believe that there should be, like we do with everything, like Staten Island residential discounts to go into Staten Island or go to the Verrazano Bridge. And the bridges in Queens are residential exemptions. I don't know why we wouldn't have the same thing for people in Lower Manhattan. And something I believe, and I've said it publicly for years.
Do we have any other questions for someone? Right.
All
Thank you
right,
so
thank you,
much.
everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Justin Flagg and Senator Krueger's office.
Hello, I'll just quickly say our report that we submitted to the board was released on May 30th, so it doesn't include all of the interesting events from last week. We did put out a mailer, an e-blast with an end of session update, and you can see that on our website, krueger.nysenate.gov. Obviously, it includes several pieces having to do with congestion pricing. You may have seen Senator Krueger's op-ed in the Daily News on Friday, which lays out her strong criticism of the governor's action. So that is there. And one other thing to highlight from that end of session report is just that we managed to pass in a session that was not great for climate action, particularly the end. We did manage to pass the Climate Change Superfund Act in both houses, which is, although Vermont beat us to the punch to be absolutely first, is still a nation-leading piece of climate legislation. So I'll encourage you to take a look at our end of session report on our website, and I'm happy to take questions.
Rich, that's a question for you.
Just really quickly, I want to thank Senator Krueger for her powerful and clear voice over the last week on congestion pricing, and for the fact that she has been both professional and unambiguous. So please make sure she knows.
Thank you. I will pass that on.
Seeing no other questions, we'll thank you very much, and we'll move forward.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sophie Sikora from Assembly Member Boras's office.
Hey everyone, so I did submit the report online that you can look at. It's basically an overview of all the things that we've been doing in session and all the bills that we passed. We were able to get 2 out of our 4 e-bike bills passed. So we're pretty excited about that. One would require them to be registered at point of sale, and another changes the DMV reporting form so that if you get hit by an e-bike or are involved in an accident with the e-bike, you can actually report that to the DMV now. Beforehand, there was no option for it. But you can go, on our report and see a bunch of other wins that we had that impact the district. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thanks so much.
Do you have any questions for? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, we had Katie Loeb from Councilmember Rivera's office.
Hi, everyone. Katie Loeb from Councilmember Rivera's office. Sorry I can't be there in person. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I apologize if I'm hard to hear as well. Happy to take any questions.
Sure, lucky night, Katie.
Thank you.
Feel better. Yes, feel better. Next, we have Patrick Hill from Councilmember Power's office.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good night. We also submitted our report a little late, but it is up there. But I just want to highlight the 3 focuses were a piece of legislation Keith introduced last month requiring the installation of 500 new water drinking fountains throughout the city by 2030. The bill number is Intro 0900. The bill would also require new fountains to have water bottle refill capabilities to increase access to clean drinking water throughout the 5 boroughs and to continue reducing our use of single-use plastics. Also, it contains measures to ensure equity in collaboration with all the city agencies involved. The bill requires to add at least 50 new drinking fountains per borough, focus on communities that are currently underserved by publicly accessible drinking fountains and ensure that drinking fountains are accessible to New Yorkers with disabilities. The second is more of a general update just on all things Sparks Kips Bay in terms of what's happening with the latest news on that. One thing I want to highlight there is Councilmember worked very diligently on discussions with CUNY and the Community Task Force and EDC on addressing the issue of dorm displacement with the students that are at the Hunter campus now. It was a big topic of discussion, and we were able to confirm with CUNY that there will be no displacement. They found another location in our council district that is also not too far away. So folks will be able to, have a direct route to, the Hunter campus, but also be able to make it down to their classes just by a quick train ride. I can share more details on that if folks would like to hear. And the last is a big announcement we were very happy about. We got news today, actually, that we will be having a hearing on the council members' package of scaffolding legislation. We're very excited. We have a lot of support surrounding this throughout the city. There's 5 different pieces of legislation that will address reforming scaffolding. It's been a top legislative priority of Keith's. And that hearing will be taking place Tuesday, June 25th at 10 a.m. at City Hall. You can testify at the hearing. We definitely encourage folks to do so. And you can testify council.nyc.gov/testify. You can sign up to do it there. That's the gist of our report. If there's any questions, I would be more than happy to take them.
So, Anne, had her hand up.
So,
Wait for the mic, Anne, sorry.
So glad to hear you highlighting the sidewalk shed legislation package, because I have to say I'm living for 5 years with scaffolding outside my bedroom window, not on my building, but on the building opposite. One of them, they work 6 days a week, which, okay. And the other one, there has been no work as apparently for the last year. So that's great. My first question is there anything we can do now to, kind of move them along? And the second thing is, I know that the borough president has also been, enthusiastic about improving the situation on this. And so I guess I'm just kind of checking in to make sure that, you guys are all working together on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to answer the question on our coordination with other, elected offices, specifically the borough presidents, they were directly involved with the creation of this legislation. We've coordinated with them because it's been a topic of concern for their office as well, just in, borough-wide and city-wide, and for that matter, it's a large issue. And, specifically the concern about, scaffoldings that are operating for long periods of time without work. One of the bills in this scaffolding package, I believe it's Intro 972, it creates timeframes for the removal of scaffolding when there's no active construction happening. So if there's no work happening at a site that there's scaffolding, fines can be levied against those that have put up the scaffolding. And if that goes unanswered, it's another one of those things that can fall under the city's umbrella, where they can actually, with this legislation, would be able to go in, perform the work, and issue the bill directly to the building itself.
Okay,
But
the question is there anything I can do right now?
And yeah, to answer that, I mean, I encourage folks to testify at the hearing, make their voices heard, possibly reach out to other elected officials in the city legislature to encourage them to vote for this piece of legislation. I mean, the scaffolding has been a blight on our city for a long period of time. I mean, there are some scaffolds in certain areas that have been up for longer than a decade, which is frankly unacceptable. So I would just encourage folks to definitely register to testify, make your voices heard, and like I said, use your voice to try to encourage the other city council members and other folks in the city legislature to, take up this issue and try to vote on the right side of this. But yeah, if there's any other additional questions, I'm more than happy to take them.
Make it fast, please.
I am gonna make it.
Thank you, Tanya, and then Michael.
Hey, Patrick, it's Tanya, how are you? Good
Hi,
to see
Tanya.
you.
Good to see you
One
too.
of the unintended consequences of all of these scaffolding standing for a very long time is that our building is now obligated to pay the Parks Department, set up an $800,000 bond, because having the scaffolding on for a long period of time killed all of the trees in the park. So those are unintended consequences. And the other thing I wanted to say is thank you, Patrick, and thank Mr. Powers for your help with the stairs in Tudor City.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Very grateful. Thank you.
Michael.
Hey, Patrick.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Patrick. Okay, real quick, I'm very excited about this program. Sometimes the scaffolding, most of the time the scaffolding, there's no enforcement on after the fact that they've already been erected around the trees the wrong way. The other thing is, I just wanted to ask you really quick, does this pertain to consulates and embassies as well as, we've been trying to work on that 38th and Lexington building that's been dormant forever, over a decade for sure. So does this pertain to those buildings as well?
I do believe it does, but let me confirm that for you. I can definitely check in with our legislative team and just get a confirmation on that, because I don't know if there's a different mechanism for how it would be enforced there, but I can definitely look into that and find out.
Great, and for our new members, we actually do have a resolution on this issue. It was June 14th of 2023. So any other questions, you can take a look at that. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
I think that's our questions. All right, has anyone signed up to speak in the public session?
They have. All right.
You look happy.
Okay.
Last minute of your nail savers.
Settle in. We'll be here all night.
It's gonna be a long one. Bring beer.
We'll push it at the airport. We'll start with our first speaker, Nancy Sheeran, who is a resident of Manhattan Community District 6, who wishes to speak on the resolution regarding the busway for East 34th Street. Ms. Sheeran, you have now been granted the floor. You will have 3 minutes to make your remarks, starting now.
Hello, my name is Nancy Sharon, and my husband and I have lived in Murray Hill since 1988. I often travel on 34th Street by foot and bus. We no longer own a car. Just to be clear, this testimony is about the busway that is proposed for 34th Street. I am already seeing improvements to bus service on 34th Street due to the dedicated bus lanes. I'd like to see an MTA DOT study to validate my anecdotal observations. Let's give the dedicated bus lanes a chance. Driving in Manhattan is already extremely complicated and difficult due to several factors. Crosstown streets on and around 34th Street are used to connect the Lincoln Tunnel to the Queens Midtown Tunnel by car. These streets act as an intercity highway. 34th Street is an access point to the FDR Drive and also an exit point. Some Midtown streets have become pedestrian plazas and are no longer available for vehicles. For example, various places along Broadway, Park, and Vanderbilt Avenues. Vehicle traffic is diverted now around these plazas. Many streets are not through streets. For example, 33rd Street is blocked at Park Avenue because there's the entrance to the Park Avenue Tunnel at that point. Some streets do not follow the normal pattern of eastbound, westbound traffic. Many streets now have dedicated bike lanes, protected bike lanes, and city bike stands, sometimes leaving only one lane for traffic. I've seen incidents with disabled vehicles in that one traffic lane, and it causes incredible backups behind the disabled vehicle. Streets around Midtown are often used for parades, street festivals, and demonstrations, causing traffic, including buses, to be diverted. Because of this complexity and the lack of a recent detailed DOT analysis of the traffic around 34th Street, I believe it is premature to create a busway on 34th Street, and we should also have many more opportunities for public comment on this. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Next on the list, we have Pamela Zoncius, a resident of Community District 6, who wishes to speak to the board regarding the resolution on the congestion pricing pause. Ms. Zoncius, you have been given the floor. You have 3 minutes to make your remarks. Beginning now.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, wonderful. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Pam Zonzius from the Sutton Area Community Board. And the one thing I just want to clarify is tonight's resolution is in opposition of the governor's delay for congestion pricing. We're not, CB6 is not voting for or against congestion pricing tonight, and that because that vote was already cast in 2019. Why we're here? We are supporting Governor Hochul because we feel the MTA has not listened to us. We as a community in Sutton Place, but also throughout the six community boards south of 60th Street, are not getting the exemptions that we need. There are plenty of people that work in our communities, our residents, coming and going. Why we just are happy to know that we can have a conversation going forward, and we look at some of the issues that congestion pricing has made. What the most important thing for us is the exemptions that we need for people now, and we're not also sure why we are being the sort of bearing the brunt of all of the MTA's upgrades south of 60th Street. And for the rest of Manhattan and the rest of anybody who comes into the island, for everyone who comes into the island. So basically, we are in support of Governor Hochul, and we look forward to conversations because they're very important now. And we have this window of opportunity that we can't squander. In just listening to the gentleman before stating that there was the possibility that residents would get an exemption south of 60th Street, and that Governor Cuomo bullied him and it bullied, the committees and so forth. We can look at that again, hopefully, because these exemptions are very, very, very important. We have many people that work in this community that make south of 60th Street a desirable place to live. And once we take that away, it's not something that we can relook at again. It's something that needs to be addressed and discussed now. So SAC's position is we are in support of Governor Hochul, and we look forward to the conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zondias. Next on the list is Dana Friedman, a resident of Community District 6 who wishes to also speak on the Community Board's resolution opposing the governor's pause of congestion pricing. Dana Friedman, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, you may begin your 3-minute testimony now.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I just want to say I live in the Murray Hill area, so obviously in the Central Business District, and I want to say that I fully support your resolution to oppose Governor Hochul's pause on congestion pricing. This law was years in the making. It was passed and signed on by lawmakers at the local, state, and federal level. It has thousands of pages of environmental review. And I think it's important to remember that the MTA held hours of public hearings already, in which there were tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of comments. And over 2/3 of these comments from everyday New Yorkers were in support of this law as it was already written and already passed. And I say law because I think it's important to remember that enacting congestion pricing is actually the law. And by not implementing it, Governor Hochul is demonstrating a massive abuse of power, which is something as citizens that we should be incredibly wary of, especially since she seems to be basing her decision off of vibes and nothing empirical. Lastly, I want to add that we have the opportunity as a city to do something extraordinary and think big and finally move beyond the status quo and benefit not only the 85% of people who commute via mass transit to the Central Business District, but also the millions of people who will benefit from this environmental impact. The economic vitality of Manhattan is not dependent on a diner patron from New Jersey, but rather from the millions of people who rely on our mass transit for their daily commutes. So I think that your resolution opposing this pause is incredibly important, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Friedman. Next on the list is John Noble, a resident of Community District 6 who wishes to speak to the board on also the resolution opposing the pause to congestion pricing. Mr. Noble, are you with us?
He doesn't appear to be here.
Okay, then we'll move on. Next on the list is Adam Liggio, representing the Skytown Peter Cooper Village Tenants Association, who wishes to address the board on the topic of congestion pricing.
Yes.
Are you here? All right.
Yes.
You may begin your 3-minute testimony now.
Okay, as the Tenants Association of Stuyvesant Town, Peter Cooper Village, an 80-acre historically middle-income housing complex in Manhattan, we represent 30,000 residents living within the Central Business District when, at some future date, the congestion pricing plan goes into effect. Governor Hochul's pause is an opportunity to resolve serious issues, including calling Manhattan below 60th Street the Central Business District is a total misnomer. Other than Times Square area and municipal and financial district, there are very large swaths of residential neighborhoods. The entire city should be asked to pay just a little more. Many uptown residents, many of whom have greater incomes, are allowed to go about their daily life at no additional cost. This is an arbitrary taxation and cost of living increase on people who just happen to live below 60th Street. $15 a day is a very significant increase in the cost of living for many residents. Taxis, Ubers, and Lyfts have been carrying onerous surcharges for months. Where has that money gone? What has been collected? That in it is in addition to local sales and sales and use tax totaling 8.875%, which actually includes a Metropolitan Commuter Transportation District surcharge of 0.375%. Where does that money go? What is it used for? The city has failed to provide adequate alternative, sufficient and reliable bus and subway service, sufficient and reliable Access-a-Ride. Many residents use their cars to get places where public transit isn't an available option. Why are they penalized? The proposed income limit of $60,000 to qualify for state tax credit is too low. Also, the tolls collected would be refunded as a tax credit months after the tolls were paid. The government will collect and use taxpayers' money even as many struggle to balance their household budgets. While the goals of reducing car congestion and improving the environment are admirable, as residents within the zone caught up in the net of congestion pricing, we object to having unfair, inequitable, and exorbitant costs imposed on our community, while other Manhattan residents are exempt from significant financial burden. We insist that the program includes significant exemptions for those living in the zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liggio. Next on the list is Ujwa Chen, who is a resident of Manhattan Community District 6 and wishes to speak to the board on the topic the previous three speakers spoke on. So, do we have Ujwa Chen?
Yes, we do.
All right. Can you hear us? Are you, hello? Ujwa Chen? I see, but I don't hear.
Just come back to it.
Yeah. Let's get back to this person. Next, Ralph Sutton. Do we have Ralph Sutton? All right.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, can you hear me now? Sorry. I think there was a issue with my my headset. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So let's go
Hello?
back to, yes, hello. All right, Ms. Chen is a resident of Community District 6. You may begin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your 3-minute testimony may begin now.
I'm not sure she can hear us.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can.
Yes. Yes, we can. Your 3-minute timer. Can you hear us?
She's gone.
All right, so she's having some difficulties. Let's go on to Mr. Ralph Sutton, who we know is here. Mr. Sutton is a representative of I believe the East Midtown Coalition. It was misspelled on the form, so I think that's what it is. Regarding the topic of the evening. Mr. Sutton, are you ready to begin?
I am. Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So yes, I'm a member of the East Midtown Coalition and a resident of Connaught Tower at 300 East 54th Street, and was asked to read the following statement regarding, as you said, the topic of the evening. Many are grateful to Governor Hochul and various elected officials who supported the suspension of the congestion pricing tax indefinitely. Since Governor Hochul's announcement to pause congestion pricing, so-called transit advocates have threatened to hold her responsible for every train and bus delay and signal failure. However, the congestion pricing plan was not ready for implementation in the first place. Yes, the license plate readers were installed and activated to track traffic flow, but the Federal Highway Administration has yet to approve the final tolling fee schedule. What has been lost in the discussion is that the MTA cannot proceed with congestion pricing without such an approval. 8 lawsuits have been filed from both New York State and New Jersey. Without any decision from any of these cases, the MTA went ahead with the installation of these license plate readers, costing $500 million. One of those lawsuits is from New Yorkers Against Congestion Pricing Tax, with plaintiffs from New York City and Long Island, including small business owners and a bipartisan group of elected officials. The environmental assessment, or EA, was completed using pre-pandemic data. And since then, New York City and the surrounding areas have faced many challenges and changes. Several of the lawsuits, including that from New Yorkers Against Congestion Pricing Tax, are petitioning for the more comprehensive environmental impact statement, which would also consider socioeconomic impact and impact on jobs. If this was truly about the environment, they should have conducted the environmental impact study so the public could have an accurate understanding of the economic, environmental, and equity consequences of congestion pricing, which were not addressed in the EA. Thank you.
Mr. Sutton. All right, next on the list, we have Danielle Campbell, who is a resident of the district and also wishes to speak to us on the topic of the evening. Ms. Campbell, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right, Ms. Campbell, you may begin your testimony, 3 minutes, starting now.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just joined this evening to speak in favor of the recent action by Governor Hochul. I'm a resident of Murray Hill. I'm the mom of 2 public school students in the district. I've lived here for a long time. And I feel that the congestion pricing as it was designed would have placed an unfair burden on the residents of downtown. I am a huge user of the MTA. I believe in funding it. I feel we really need to reduce congestion. Climate change is an issue of great urgency, but to place the burden of all these problems on residents of downtown is not that is the vibes. We don't like it. This is not a commercial district. This is a hybrid district. We live here, we work here, we use our cars to visit our families on Long Island and New Jersey on the weekends, and it's unfair to charge us a tax just to return to our own homes. I won't speak at length tonight. I'll just conclude by saying that this type of policy has worked around the world, but in every other international city that has congestion pricing, Milan, Singapore, London, residents either have a substantial discount or an exemption because charging people to come to their homes makes that area of the town unappealing for families. And New York is not like the rest of the world where the downtown districts are deserted on the weekends and the plazas have tumbleweeds. We live here, we work here all the time. So I'm glad that Governor Hochul was able to delay it. I feel that the local the local electeds need to remember they represent not the national agenda, but the local agenda. And locally, this is an unfair burden on us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Next on the list is Rachel Stern, but I don't see Ms. Stern. Brendan, do you happen to see her?
No, I do not see her.
She signed up just this evening, but maybe we lost her. All right, and one last chance, Wujua Chen. Ms. Chen, I know you were having some technical difficulties.
I don't see her.
Okay. All right, then that concludes the speakers list for this evening.
Okay, the minutes for the May 8th, The minutes for the May 8th full board meeting were distributed to board members ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Board members, if you have an objection to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Seeing no objection, the minutes from the May 8th full board meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CD6 website. Chair's report. Trying to keep this really tight. In February, the CD6 Health and Environment Committee developed and passed a resolution in support of the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, and the Committee of Interns and Residents at New York City Health and Hospitals, which is CRSEIU. By passing the reso, the board played a role in enabling the 2,300 residents and fellows critical to patient care at Bellevue and across the city to come to a contract agreement with the city after several years of negotiation. A reminder, as we are moving into election season, we have a resolution from December of 2023, which gives guidance for political activities. Please take a look at it. We are not allowed to endorse candidates using our community board titles or resources. And the resolution is quite extensive, so please take a look at it. We have had many requests to locate and document the illegal cannabis shops in our district. The board office has developed a map that we will be sending out to you to identify shops in your neighborhood. We've divided up the whole district, I think it's 17 areas, sectors, and you'll be assigned a sector. This is some summer homework for you. There'll be more on this coming. We won't talk about it tonight. And it's something we want you to fill in over the summer. We know it's a constantly changing thing, but we want to at least try and get a document that shows where the shops are. Over the summer, we will be starting our mentoring program and talking to new members about their committee assignments and resolution writing. This more summer homework. And I know we've had some people respond to the, John sent out something regarding mentoring. I think people have responded, but please do sign up and we'll be doing that over the summer. We have 2 social events also planned. Mark your calendars for the July 12th Sutton Sunset Celebration. It's from 6 to 8:30 p.m. And it was a great way that we met up last summer. And it's one of our beautiful parks that everybody should get to know. We'll send out something to everybody on that.
Is that Manhattan Henge?
Yes, it is. We didn't get to see Manhattan Henge last year, but it was not sure.
I live in Manhattan.
Paige is also helping to put together a dinner for later in August, a tradition to thank our previous chairs. We have several previous chairs, Kyle being our most recent one. And so we're planning to cater a dinner at Tudor City, again, more to follow. I've been asked many times why we're voting on congestion pricing now. We already have a resolution in place that supports congestion pricing, but all of the community boards within the congestion zone are discussing this issue with the goal of presenting a unified position. We speak through our resolutions and we must vote on the issue to have a voice. Yeah. Our district manager, Jesus Perez, will now give his report.
All right, we've got a marathon evening ahead, so I'm gonna waive my report and send it an email.
Oh, and one item I forgot to talk about, I'm so sorry. It's regarding voting, and I know I wrote it out here. There's been a lot of confusion about what abstention means. When you are voting, we must have a plurality of positive votes. So if you vote against something, extremely clear. If you vote an abstention, you are not voting a positive vote. So your vote will count as a negative vote. So I think people quite often are confused. They feel they can abstain. It means they're not sure about the issue or they don't want to have a comment. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way in our bylaws and how the board is run. So just a caution, abstention is a negative vote. I think that was everything that I was supposed to mention. Hopefully, let's carry on. Gabe Truso, our secretary, is going to give his.
All right, treasurer's report, we're good, next. Real quick, according to the Office of Management Budget, our CV6 budget is $588,726, $447,000 of that is encumbered, $174,000 of that is the rent, $253,000 of that is for personal services, and $20,000 of that is other than personal services. We have $140,000 of unencumbered funds, of which $137,000 are street fair funds.
Thank you, that was excellent. We now arrived at our committee reports and resolutions. A reminder that the same ground rules apply. Members of the public, please note that during the session of the meeting, we only recognize questions from members of the board. The digital ballot was mailed out to all the members. Please click on the link in your email. Select your name from the drop-down list. Select your vote on each resolution as presented. Do not use it to submit your ballot until after the final resolution has been presented. That implies you're not listening to the discussion. You will not be able to submit the ballot unless you vote on every resolution. If you plan on abstaining, please select abstain, understanding that it will be a negative vote. Final vote counts will be announced after the second roll call. If any vote part of the procedure is unclear, please raise your hand and we will address your question.
And just one more clarification, someone who is new submitted a ballot before the meeting started. We have deleted that ballot, so you're gonna have to do it again.
Yes. Please vote after the discussion on the resolution. Hopefully something comes up that makes you come on. So first off, we have Neil Barkley, Chair of Parks, Landmarks, and Cultural Affairs.
All right, good evening. We have one resolution this evening. Mark Thompson was nice enough to put this together, very brief, short, succinct. It is about the appropriateness for a proposal to replace windows, resurface the facade, construct a rear addition, alter the rear facade and garden, and excavate at 243 East 48th Street in the Turtle Bay Gardens Historic District. That essentially sums up the resolution and chair's report. I will waive it, and we hope that everyone has a great summer.
Marty.
Call the question. Second.
All right. Oh, sorry. Was there? If we can, if there's no objection, we will now vote. I hear an objection. No. All right, please, let's vote. Please mark your digital ballot. It should have been secret. All right, report, Neil. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Thank you. All right, Youth and Education, John Dorico is chair.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'll try to keep this as quick as possible. We have a resolution opposing and calling for the end of the mayor's implementation of the 60-day rule for asylum-seeking families. To keep this as succinct as possible, our resolution tracks and was influenced by the comptroller's investigation, similarly calling for an end to the mayor's 60-day rule, as well as a number of community boards and local education districts. Happy to discuss. If there's a call to question, that would also be pretty great too.
I'll call the question.
Okay, the question has been called. If there's no objection, we will now vote on the resolution. Please mark your digital ballot. And John, do you have a report for us?
I'll waive it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.
I started a trend.
I'm already. Business experience and licensing, Anton Mullen. Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion to bundle 3A to 3H.
We have a motion to bundle 3A through 3H.
Second.
No, Antoine.
I will talk about UH.
Okay.
I will.
3A to 3F.
Go to,
3A through 3F.
3G and 3H I'd like to discuss.
All right, so we'll
Bundle to 3A to 3F.
So bundle one, that's like 3A to 3F.
Hearing no objections, we will bundle those. You can go ahead and mark your digital ballot. And
Very straightforward, approvals, no problems with any of these establishments. I want to talk about 3G and 3H. You notice 3G says a resolution of no objection for renewal of wine, beer, and cider license for
415 restaurant group doing business as Fumo Kips Bay. The next resolution after that is a resolution to support a New York State Senate Bill S 8913, a New York State Assembly Bill A 09755, which would exempt Fumo Restaurant, the same restaurant, from the 200-foot alcohol beverage control law. Now, the reason that we're asking, or they have asked to go to the Assembly and the Senate to do this, is because the prior restaurant there, which did have an on-premises license, went out of business 6 months before Fumo took over the space. So there was a restaurant that was already there that did fall in that 200-foot rule and was approved. Because it was out more than 6 months and it was not a transfer of license, a Fumo restaurant could not get an on-premises license because they were not grandfathered. Now, all around that area, there are many restaurants with on-premises licenses which fall within the 200-foot rule, but they've been grandfathered. I just wanted to explain the reason that this situation came by, so that they would have to go to legislation to get an exemption, is because of the 6-month hiatus between when the old restaurant closed and the new people came in and took over the lease. So we're in favor of the resolution. We understand that in our meeting, several members of staff of the Senate Assembly person came and explained that to us, and a gentleman from the State Liquor Authority also indicated that this was not an unusual situation. It has happened before, and well, couldn't recommend one way or the other. It's up to us to consider this, and this is what we're doing. So our recommendation was that we would support the resolutions for the passage of the Senate and Assembly bills.
Do we have any questions for Anton?
Motion to bundle G and H.
We have a motion to bundle. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. All right, please go ahead. And since there's no objection, we'll now vote on the resolutions.
Okay. And I'll wait my report.
Okay.
Yes,
Transportation, Jason Fromowitz is chair.
Good evening to everybody. We have a number of resolutions. The first one is on a bus stop proposed for 155 East 34th Street for Hampton's Living Line.
Call question. Second.
Okay. If there's no objection, we'll now vote on the resolution. Please mark your digital calendar.
Next, we have a resolution on co-naming of the northeast corner of East 46th Street and 2nd Avenue for Jamal Khashoggi. We have a nice presentation from the organization representing them, and proposing this resolution deals in resolution.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Anne, go ahead.
Yeah, I was concerned about this. While I'm completely, I'm completely in support of kind of the intent of it. When I read our guidelines for street co-naming, it really does not seem to fit them. And I saw, there's a whereas, like LA and DC have done this. They may not have the self-imposed restrictions that we have. So, and I always have kind of mixed feelings about how effective street co-namings are in actually educating people. So I wonder if you considered, I couldn't make the meeting, doing a plaque and not doing a street co-naming, and where exactly that plaque would go and what it would say.
we actually asked for a plaque in the resolution.
Yeah, that's why I'm mentioning it.
I may consider, that in lieu of the renaming. I will say, I shared your concerns going into the meeting, that I wasn't sure, if I understood the connection to New York City. The presenter, I think, did a good job of, explaining like how, Mr. Khashoggi's, work, was on like values of New York City and being a host of the location of the UN, and as well as just like standing for freedom of the press.
But I mean, that's universal, right?
Yeah,
It's not community. I mean, we don't know that he ever set foot in this neighborhood. I mean, as a journalist, he probably did, but.
Presumably, yeah, I mean, I'll leave to other members of the committee, perhaps, I might not be necessarily the best person.
Bee has her hand up, actually. Bee, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you. So when I also looked at the guidelines, and it talks of people of significance, and certainly the significance of him as a figure for freedom of the press, journalism, and expressing an opinion are very significant. Also, the United Nations, which is in our zone, is really supporting this type of action in their report. And so it was really important for us to recognize what he meant in freedom of the press and the significance. And as a result, he does have national and community significance through that. So I agree with you. I can't tell whether he stepped foot in the space, but he did spiritually and morally and ethically. And that's why I support the resolution.
Maya?
Hello. I do think in our guidelines for the code naming, the third one is significance to humanity. So I do think it does fall into what our guidelines are for CB6. But I do also agree with you in the sense of he doesn't have a strong connection to New York City, and that does give me pause whether that falls into the guidelines or not. Largely also everything that he dealt with in his own journalism, nothing really related to things that were happening in New York. It was all based in Saudi Arabia. And so while I agree that New York City is an international city and that we do also have a lot of code naming streets that have to do with people that have nothing to do with New York City, it is a preference, but it's not necessarily one we have to follow.
Is it possible to maybe pull up the
resolution?
guidelines? No, the
The
guidelines.
guidelines? And Parag, I think you're next.
Thank you. Yeah, I went into the meeting completely sharing your concerns. I'm like, this guy's not from New York, why are we naming the street after him? But I really changed my mind afterwards. Yitzhak Rabin Way is only 3 blocks south of there, and he kind of really falls into this kind of resonance. Like Rabin is like a guy for peace, a guy for democracy in the Arab world. His foundation is headquartered in New York. The United Nations is headquartered in New York. This was a recommendation from the United Nations. And so I think he deserves it, just like Yitzhak Rabin deserved it.
Yeah.
Can someone close the door, please?
I think Marion was next.
Regarding just about the plaque, DOT was in the meeting and they said that the plaque would fall under Keith Powers, the councilman, not us. So we're hoping to kind of, get his attention too and get the plaque there too.
And my understanding is that Keith Powers would need to approve the co-naming anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not up to, we recommend, but it's not necessary. So it's, Eric is next and then Marty.
Just a quick question. Do you know like what percentage of streets we have co-naming or how often we do this? This is just new to me.
I don't have the stats off.
I mean, not exactly, but I mean, is it like every street has it or like very few? We do this once a year, we do this every month. Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen it in the committee. That said, I mean, it's the second time we've seen another one recently. It's a process that's open to the public to apply for, but I don't know the stats in terms of how many we have. It is somewhat infrequent that we have these requests, so.
My guess is about 1 a year, maybe,
Not even.
because we had a moratorium.
Not even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Marty, you need the mic and then,
I suggest that the committee review the guidelines that we set up and chance revise them.
yeah, but I mean, the committee did review them during this process, definitely, but if they need to be changed, they should be good. Any other comments, Stu?
What's the relationship between the location and the street renaming and the Saudi embassy?
Yes, the specifically asked for this location from the Saudi embassy, because, Mr. Khashoggi was murdered in a Saudi embassy, I forgot where.
Istanbul.
In Istanbul.
And effectively, the concept is, that serving as a
Very well
method for
placed.
justice for Mr. Khashoggi.
I think it's properly placed.
I think the problem is nobody really knows
Really,
where the Saudi
really
embassy is. But
I think it's something in that the consulate is.
it's in the Dag Hammarskjöld building, there's absolutely no identification.
Can I call the question?
Yes,
Call the question.
call the question, do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, B, you have your hand up? Did you want to second the call to question?
You're muted,
Calling
B.
the question, so I'm fine, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, please mark your digital ballot.
All right, next, we have a resolution on work that's going on with DDC on Lexington Avenue from 45th Street to 49th Street. They're planning a number of roadway changes and improvements. As outlined with this.
Marty,
Call the question. Second.
if there's no objection, we'll now go on the resolution, please mark your digital ballot.
Oh, can I just ask a technical? Aren't they called bulb outs?
All that's generally for buses. Sorry, which component are you?
Well, I think in both of the resolutions about, I mean, it's a technical question and I could totally be wrong, but were they called bump outs? I thought those were bulb outs, but you may well know better than I.
Sorry, I don't remember the specific part of the resident that may have referred to bump out versus bulb out. I don't think there's a difference. I think
If they're interchangeable.
I would say they're interchangeable. Or potentially possibly mislabeled, but I think they serve as being interchangeable.
Okay, we've had the question called, right? Please mark your ballot. For next resolution.
Yes, similarly, we read a proposal from DDC on improvements to the area of 43rd Street and Lexington Avenue, as well as Lexington Avenue from 43rd and 44th Street. The main components of this is a pedestrian plaza on 43rd Street that they're planning on building out, including raised crosswalks and sidewalk extension.
Call the question.
Okay, that's, and second, please go ahead, if there's no objection, we will now vote and mark your digital ballot.
All right, and then lastly, we have a resolution supporting a busway for 34th Street. Just a quick background on this. DOT released a report outlining the plans of the projects they had planned in response to congestion pricing. They had outlined 34th Street as one of the priority projects that they wanted to pursue, and this resolution sought to emphasize our encouragement of them to move that project forward and implement a busway similar to what we have on 14th Street on 34th Street.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I just have to comment because congestion pricing is in question, and this is in response to congestion pricing. So I feel like it needs an extra comment here. So, you know, if we are gonna do congestion pricing, then people need a way to get around, and the buses are going at walking speed. So we need a way to get the buses going, and people need to be able to get across town. Now, if you say, I don't want congestion pricing, Well, our buses are still going walking speed, and then you really need a busway. So either way, you really need a busway. And, 14th Street's awesome. There was all these objections to it in lawsuits and whatever, and now it's like, oh, 14th Street's like one of the best streets in Manhattan, so there's no reason 34th Street couldn't be too.
Just really quick to add, Matt, the DOT announced today that they are moving forward with the projects that they had planned for in response to congestion pricing despite the pause. Just noting that as well.
Okay. Marty?
Call the question.
Second. All right, seeing no more discussion, please move ahead and mark it to the ballot. Okay, thank you. Under housing and homelessness, Rich Mintz.
Yes, we have, is this on? Do you hear me? Sorry. Right, get the button.
The button needs to be green.
Green. Hello. So we have 3 resolutions, and I will try to be brief. The first one is in support of the Community Land Act, which is a collection of 4 proposals at the state level that would encourage nonprofit and community land trust housing development. One of them, which is the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, we all already endorsed in 2020. It sat and is back again as part of this package. The other one is the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase resolution, which would let give tenant groups an advantage in buying out their buildings when they went on sale. The Public Land for Public Good Act, which would give preference to nonprofit and community organizations when public land is sold, and a provision that would stop the sale of tax liens for profit. It's our view as a housing committee that these things would help encourage affordable housing.
Do we have any questions? Mark's calling the question. Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you. I mean, I didn't write the legislation, but.
All right, please mark your digital ballot.
The second resolution is an endorsement of the Homes Now allocation in the New York City budget. What this is the city council's preliminary budget proposed allocating $2.5 billion in capital funds for HPD, the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, which would be used for two programs that help nonprofit developers finance the construction of housing. Nonprofit developers and community organizations. And Mayor Adams struck that in his proposed budget. And we would like to support the council in asking that it be put back. And the comptroller endorses it, teachers, nurses, unions endorse it. And we think that it's a good idea. And if we approve it, our community board will join other community boards in signing a letter of support that will go to the mayor.
Do you have any questions? All the questions. Thank you. Please mark your digital ballot.
I'm sorry, I'm hunched over. I can't read my phone.
And just to note, this next resolution was a joint resolution between the land use and waterfront and the housing.
Yes, the underlying conclusion was jointly agreed. The next resolution is a resolution expressing favorable recommendation on the City of US for Housing Opportunity Zoning Text Amendment Package. And our land use committee got a presentation on the City of US proposals and voted 7-0 for a favorable recommendation. Our housing committee also voted a favorable disposition, when we discussed it. You recall that, a month ago, we passed a resolution, with questions and concerns about City of Yes, which was, delivered to Department of City Planning, who had substantive responses to all of them, and they came to present to us. It was very impressive that they read it and responded. Along with our favorable recommendation, we've included 7 significant concerns that we have that we want DCP to have on record from us. They include concerns about making sure that affordable housing is maximized, that diverse housing sizes are accommodated, and some other things. We also included a provision reminding DCP of our position that areas like Stuyvesant Town need to be protected because the open space is very important. And there's very low possibility that open space would be built on. I think the owners understand the value of the Oval and are not going to build like the Tower of Doom on it, but we want to make sure that we are on record as saying that they should not do that.
Take nothing for granted.
So I mean, that's all I have to say in terms of setup. Is there anything? Yes.
We had a meeting last night and revised the proposal, so what are we voting on? Are we voting on the revised proposal from last night?
Yes, we're voting on. Yes.
Has that been distributed?
Yes, it's in the packet.
That's what's in your.
Oh, I know that's what I read.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that Sandra is the one who made sure that we put our commitment to affordable housing front and center.
Yeah, let me just, I have to say, there are 2 parts to this really, about development of housing and development of affordable housing. And I really stress affordable housing. And we really have to keep that in focus because that's going to get landlined somewhere. And I have very strong feelings about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do we have any questions? Okay. Mark, Tyler, call for the second. All right, please go ahead and mark the ballot. All right, thank you. Land use and waterfront, Gabe Trussell is going to give a report.
Okay, the FDR, don't get used to it. The group to reenacting the FDR is, we are moving forward with those plans. So we are now talking to elected officials. We are meeting with Mark Levine tomorrow. We are going to ask for some public endorsements from all the relevant elected officials, and that's the big news out of the committee. We also have our 2 fellows that completed their reports. Waterproofing the Eastern Manhattan, north of the SCR from 59th Street on down, Sabu Muhammad for a great report together. It's incredibly interesting. I highly recommend you read it. And Missy Quick did a deep dive on POPs, and which are big on the ground in our area. We have more than any other community district in the city. They're often not used with the agreements, with the landlords don't honor the agreements. And she came up with some great methodologies for us to make them more accessible and hold the landlords more accountable. And last but not least, we're doing the text amendment for Spark and Innovation East, the zoning text amendment in Euler, in our June meeting on the 24th. So if you have strong feelings about that, please attend. Thank you.
I was just.
Reports on the website. The 2 reports on the website.
Not only are they on the website, but paper copies will be available in the office shortly.
And I just want to say for the FDR, we've been talking with community boards 1, 3, 5, and 8. So there's a lot of interest in reimagining the FDR. Great, thank you. Next we have budget and governmental affairs. Nav Khan.
Mark, the reports are on the website, the land use committee page.
All right, I'll start with the topic of the evening. I was in pause. I don't need to walk through the detail, but open to comments.
I'm gonna vote opposed to this resolution
I think that, Governor Hochul may have very well overstepped the bounds of her responsibilities and is acting like an autocrat. However, I think it's an opportunity to really look at some of the issues that have not been sufficiently addressed. And I think all in all, that it's the system is really unfair to people living, in the so-called central business district. And that one woman was right. It's a hybrid district. They're just large swathes of residential buildings that are really not part of the central, that really are not central business district. And the tax of 15, I call it a tax of $15 is an awful lot of money. If you have to do that 5 days a week, that's $75 a week, that's grocery money. I just think things have to be looked at, and now there's an opportunity to do it. Thank you.
And B has her hand up. B, you have the floor.
I can't see it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I too am going to oppose this resolution. I kind of wish the governor and the legislature had gotten together a little before to deal with this issue. A last minute pause doesn't work well for me, for government leaders. However, having said that, and being a person that's implemented nationally programs for low-income individuals, I have major issues with the exceptions and how they're planning on implementing and those that they're not planning on doing. For example, for low-income individuals, you have to pay 10 of these fees before you have the ability to get the rest waived. That's laying out $150 for people. In order to be eligible, you have to be on SNAP, on WIC, on TANF, and those are people at the federal poverty level or very close to it. So that really needs to be looked at. For people that are earning $60,000 and below, it's a tax credit at the end of the year. And so they have to lay out the money, and a lot of people with $60,000 and below are just making ends meet. I also was very concerned about the disability population. I agree, there's a special way if you have an access ride or if you have a placard, but all the other people have to make an appointment. They have to get the disability determined and then take a second step. And we don't even have an office in Manhattan. So I think that in addition to the residential exemptions generally that we heard about tonight, I will oppose this, and I hope that the pause can be used to really deal with exemptions that make sense for this whole area. Thank you.
Brock?
I'm going to stand for this to give some gravitas. What I want to say here. We have a once in a generation chance to make New York City a world-class public transit system. Okay, once in a generation, clean air, 1 million public school students want it. The young people want it. The poor people take public transit. The middle class take.
Step forward, you're right into the speaker and you're.
No, that doesn't give it more gravitas.
Gives us feedback.
Right here. All right, so the poor people take public transit. There's going to be a disability ADA lawsuit against the state because this is going to give disability access to the subway. Disabled people want it. There's just so many reasons that this is just an amazing thing for our city, and I urge you to vote in favor. But I'm going to say this one thing to all the naysayers. This makes me not trust anything the government says. How can you trust anything? How can you pay? Why would you pay taxes just for Hochul to light $1 billion on fire? Yeah. Just say yes because of that, even if you're against congestion pricing. Thanks.
Maya, Maya, and then we'll go to.
I would also like to underline what Rob was saying here, that it is something for the longevity and the future of New York, and you should be in favor of this resolution in the sense that we are moving forward. We want to be a progressive city, and there is a lot of public transit options, particularly in our community board area, that you can take and you can get better if we better funded. We also shouldn't prioritize I mean, who has cars? People who are wealthy and they can't afford it. If they can't afford it, you're right, they're taking public transit. Like, I don't make that much money and I live in this community, which is a lot more expensive, but it's affordable because of public transit. Like, I couldn't afford a car regardless of the $15. Like, there's gas, there's insurance, there's a lot of other things involved. Yeah, garage. And so you should vote in favor of this.
Jason's next and then, Larry.
Thank you. Somebody a member of the public in the committee meeting on Monday encouraged us to look at this issue with fact as opposed to emotion. So I came prepared with a number of facts. First off, residents of CD6, 85% of households in CD6 do not have a car owned in that household. Furthermore, beyond CD6, 86% of those who work in Manhattan within the congestion zone arrive. 86% of those who work in the district commute by transit, compared to 10% who drive by car. And then further, when you look at the complaints about the $15 charge, it's reduced to $3.75 after 9 p.m., which is a goal to move some of that traffic to arrive into the congestion zone at off-peak hours. So it's not necessarily $15, it's $15 if you arrive during those peak hours. It's only charged once per day. It's only charged when you return into the congestion zone. A couple other quick statistics. As it pertains to people with low income, there was a study conducted by the Community Service Society of New York. They found that 2% of outer borough working residents in poverty would be subject to the fee, which amounts to about 5,000 total people. And another common class of people that are concerned about in discussions of congestion pricing are essential workers. These are your doormen, hospital workers, etc. Same study from the Community Service Society found that this would only be 3% of low income essential workers would be subject to the fee. So we would to be opposed to congestion pricing for these very small populations of people in those categories who do commute into the congestion zone via car, I think would be a huge misnomer and missed opportunity to benefit the great majority of others within the district. And I am strongly in support of the resolution.
Larry was next. Larry has his hand up.
All right, thank you for allowing me to attend remotely. I've had major surgeries, these bandages, evidence. I've had to go back and forth from Stuyvesant Town to Mount Sinai Hospital and doctors' offices in that area. Really wish that congestion pricing was already in effect, because the trip has been an hour and a half each way. And I have to do this many more times. It's from a fiscal point of view, totally irresponsible for the governor to, it's not $1 billion, it's $15 billion, to burn a $15 billion hole in the future of mass transit. And the folks who are bondholders have a covenant with the MTA, which is an independent authority, and under contract, they have the right to sue for the tortious interference with their contract. And I'll bet you that the bond ratings and the ability of the MTA to borrow money is just going to go down the toilet. And we're never going to get anything built, including the projects that are currently on pause, the signaling system on 6th Avenue, Fulton Street, Brooklyn, which are 90 years old and failing. Those were going to be built. Those were halted because congestion pricing hasn't yet gone into effect, and we really need to fix this. This resolution is mild. It is reasoned. It's only calling for a return to what the status quo was before Governor Hochul's precipitous action. The lawsuits will work themselves out, and we'll find out where we are. I fully support this resolution. Thank you.
And Gloria, did you want to speak? Sorry, wait for the microphone, please.
Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting, the statistics I just heard, because on the surface, it looks like 15% of people are the only people affected. So trucks delivering food and packages and items are all gonna the businesses are all gonna transfer those costs onto the people. Now, that said, I think some type of congestion pricing is a good idea. But the way it stands is actually, I mean, I could get the ACLU involved for the 15% of people who are actually being taxed. So that you can all have fresh air, which you will not have, because I don't know if you've seen the report out of London, it hasn't worked. So this is a great opportunity to get it right, do it better maybe than the others that have done it. So I have to vote to oppose it. It's an imposed tax on a large area and an escalation of pricing of goods and services that needs to be looked at and some adjustments made for the residents before I could say it's a good thing. But the idea, the basic idea is nice, but there's a lot of detail.
And Gabe had his hand up.
I just want to say, I manage grocery stores, I'm in that business, and I believe this will be disinflationary for us because congestion costs us an absolute fortune, time is money. We would much rather they can get through quicker. This is a rounding error for the time saved.
And if I really feel, if there are no more comments, we should probably go ahead and vote. We've heard quite a bit of information about this. Anne's calling a question, do we have a second?
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So if you would please, go ahead and mark a digital ballot. Matt.
I have some very quick work. We put together as part of our committee this budget document that we've mentioned a few times in previous meetings. I know we're already going late here, so I'm not gonna walk through it in detail, but what we'll do is we'll distribute this document to the entire board. This document basically lays out key deadlines for each committee to think about, as well as guidelines for drafting budget requests. We're happy to field questions. This is a living document. Many members here have a lot more experience on the board than I do. So as you're reviewing it, if you have suggestions, definitely let us know. We're happy to incorporate those. But basically the spirit of this document was to basically make it clear for everybody, because budget process only happens once a year. People forget how the details work. And we just wanted to basically have a clear process to align on. So we put that together. We'll distribute it over email with a guide of how to read it and think about it. And of course, I always appreciate comments there.
Great, thank you. I think most of the committees have been hopefully discussing budget issues, so they'll continue to do that. Health and environment, LB is not here this evening, so we're going to move on to public safety and sanitation. Stu.
Thanks. Just quickly, next meeting will be, orientation for us, on two issues. We've just taken the responsibility of sanitation, so we'll be meeting for the first time with the Department of Sanitation with our lead liaison. I do want to point out that the sanitation districts in New York City are exactly coincident with community board districts. This is probably not a coincidence. So we requested that the liaison bring the district supervisor with her, so that we could get informed information and speak to somebody who had some discretion. And the department denied that because they don't allow overtime to be given to their supervisory staff, among others. I know this has been an issue with some other committees, so I'm just mentioning that it's going to be somewhat challenging for the board to do its work if it can't connect with the people that we need to connect with. The other discussion we're gonna have is among the committee members, basically what we want to define our responsibility as in terms of public safety and how we can be more effective at what we do. Public safety is about more than policing, but I'll leave it at that right now. But anyone who is thinking about being with the committee is invited to come and be part of this discussion. And that will be the end of this now.
Thank you. That's the end of our committee discussions. Board members, if you have any old or new business to state, please raise your hand. Marty.
It was terrific.
Oh, wait, the mic. Sorry.
It was terrific having the senator and assemblyman there. Years ago, we used to get them all the time. It's nice to see them on television, but you really don't get the feel of the personalities and their, and how they can interact with the board and with the community. I would think that it would be great for the chair and the district manager to urge our elected officials, if and when they're in town, to be here.
Okay. Some of our elected officials actually. So, all right, and do you have any other open new business? All right, I think we're ready for the second roll call. So you know that, oh, wait, sorry.
Members, I will now call on you for the second roll call. If you have not submitted your ballot, please do so now. If you are unable to use the digital ballot, CB6 staff will ask you for your vote on each of tonight's resolutions. Majed Abdul Samad.
Present, and I will submit now.
Awesome. Tanya Arias.
Here.
Kyle Athane.
Present.
Neil Barkley.
Present.
Martin Barrett.
Present.
LV Barroso.
Not here.
Jim Collins.
Not here.
Jonathan Dorico.
Present.
Stuart Deser. Beatrice Disman.
Present.
Maya Donahue. Robert Fairfax. Barack Friedman.
Present.
Jason Fromowitz. Eric Goldberg. Justin Goldberg. Gloria Hayes.
Present.
Rabia Iqbal. Paige Judge. Rupal Kakan.
Present.
John Keller.
Present.
Nadeem Kalani. Katie Londa.
Present.
Sandra Leftoff.
She just left.
David Levy.
It's not here.
David Lowenstein. Anton Mulner. Sandra McKee.
Present.
Alec Militic.
Present.
Richard Mintz.
Present.
Kevin O'Keefe.
Present.
Stephen O.
Present.
Breshma Patel. Stephen Perez. Miriam Ralph. Michael Enroe. Roberto Ruiz Melendez. Lawrence Shayer.
Present.
Ann Seligman.
Present.
Sandra Sharon. Olivia Shrenik, present. Bhupin Siddiqui. Letty Simon.
Present, I'll give you my vote.
Awesome. Susan Steinberg.
Present.
Does
Mark
somebody want
Thompson.
my vote?
Yes.
Just a minute, Letty.
Love you, lady.
Okay.
Gabriel Churzo. James Vera. Jerry Weinstein. Sarah
Present.
Whittington. Oh. Sarah Whittington. Peter Zeddy.
Present.
Did you get Paige? She is, Paige is here. Paige, just say present.
Paige Judge.
She's waiting.
Okay, we need ballots from Letty, who says she's ready to give it, and we need ballots from Paige. Paige, we got your message and we sent you the link again in the chat. Please use that link, and we just sent it again. Please use that link, or we'll get your ballot, your votes right after. Letty, are you ready to call your votes?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
One A in favor.
Okay.
Two, I think there was one there in favor. 3 A2H in favor. Let's see, 4 was A and B in favor. 7. Are you with me?
Hold on.
Hold on. There is.
Okay, 7A.
All right,
And
3.
7A I'm opposed.
Okay, start again with 3H.
Okay, 3 was A2H in favor.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. 4 was A and B, and that was in favor. Or, yeah. And 7A, I'm opposed.
Or C and D?
Yeah, we're missing those.
Yeah, in favor. I'm sorry. Yes, I see it here. Yes, in favor. That was C and D. That was in 4, correct?
Yes, and E for E.
Yes, yes. I'm
All
fine.
right.
And
5A,
se-
B, C.
And 7, was, I'm opposed. What am I missing?
5A, 5B, and 5C, the housing resos.
Okay, I'm in favor. Those are okay.
All right, so in favor of everything except 7A.
Right.
All right, we will submit that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No problem.
How about Paige? Do I have one?
Paige,
Problems. I have to give it verbally.
okay.
Just tell us what you're against.
Against the resolution opposing, Governor Hochul, I agree that it should be on hold till they straighten out the question.
Everything else you're for?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes you don't know.
Okay, so Paige, that's everything in favor except for that last one. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. There are 19 of them, so
Yeah.
I need to click all of them so they can figure into the results.
So we are just waiting for the results.
Okay. One last check. All right, we've got the ballots. Here we go. For the Parks 1A, it passes unanimously with 44 votes in favor. Youth and Education 2A, it passes with 41 votes in favor, none opposed, and 3 abstentions. For the bulk 3A, it passes, this is the bundle, it passes 44 in favor unanimously. That is 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, 3E, 3F, 3G. Although in 3G there was 3G and 3A, 3G. 3G passes, it's 43 votes in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. 3H for bulk passes unanimously, 44 votes in favor. Transportation 4A, also unanimous, 44 votes in favor. Transportation 4B, it passes, 42 votes in favor, 2 opposed. Transportation 4C, it passes, 44 votes in favor. 4D for transportation passes unanimously, 44 votes in favor. Transportation 4E, it passes, 42 votes in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention. Housing 5A, it passes, 43 votes in favor, 1 opposed. Housing 5B, it passes unanimously, 44 votes in favor. Housing 5C, it passes, 44 votes in favor, it's unanimous. And the final resolution, it passes, 30 votes in favor, 11 opposed, 3 abstentions, and that is that.
And I just want to say regarding the last resolution, we can now join our voices with the rest of the congestion zone community boards. We're all taking a vote on the same issue. CD5's executive has already passed, so we'll see what happens. Seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 9:14.